Dear friends, it is with a very heavy heart that I am recording this message. We were all set to come to Dubai and enjoy the super hospitality of Kailash Bhai, as well as catch up with old friends. However, everything doesn't happen as per plan. Our passports are stuck in a European embassy, and at the last moment, we had to cancel coming over to Dubai, hence this video. Friends, we are meeting at a very interesting time with rules of the game undergoing massive transformation, highlighting increased geopolitical risks. To name a few, multilateral trading rules and agreements are being consigned to dustbins of history. WTO seems wobbly, and more it looks as if it's a toothless tiger, as countries are ignoring it with impunities. We have an authoritarian leadership in many countries. Globalization seems to have taken a back seat, with countries becoming more and more inward looking. America for Americans, Make in India, Brexit, etc. are manifestations of populist and nativist agendas, driving political leaders worldwide. Political landscape in countries is looking highly polarized. India is no different, and with elections happening, this polarization looks complete. Frictions among major powers is further querying the pitch. China versus USA, USA versus Europe, Malaysia and Indonesia versus Europe are increasing business risks. Now let's look at some of the economic risks. The world is not only struggling with geopolitical risks, but the economic scenario also does not look too bright. Global economic growth looks wobbly. IMF has cut global economic growth to about 3.5% during 2019, as against 3.7% last year. China, USA, Europe are all struggling with lower expected growth numbers. China, which was the factory of the world, is looking at around 6% growth, which is the lowest since early 90s. Massive debt defaults in India and a huge increase in NPA or non-performing assets is shaking the foundations of the banking sector. Big corporate loans are in the dock, and going forward, it would become more and more difficult to dupe the banks in India. In India, we are witnessing rising income and wealth disparity big time. This, coupled with rural distress and falling farm values, have the potential to increase social and economic unrest. With US interest rates hardening, the honeymoon period of low interest rates for emerging economies seems to be over. No wonder currency risks in the emerging economies are increasing. Friends, now let me speak a little about the Indian agri scenario. India is a very interesting country. On the one hand, we are struggling with mountains of wheat and rice, as well as sugar. And on the other, we have massive deficits in edible oils. My own exposure in the commodity space has been more or less in the last few years in edible oils and sugar. As far as edible oil is concerned, the increase in imports are relatively muted. This year we expect India to be importing about 15.5 million tons. Oilseed production in India seems to be looking up, and I would not be too surprised if we achieve a number of about 8.5 million tons of mustard. At sea, we have taken upon ourselves the task of giving the right kind of thrust to mustard cultivation in the country. As a matter of fact, we have taken a target of achieving 20 million tons by 2025. And in this, I am sure the government of India would also be putting wholehearted support. As far as the refining sector in the country is concerned, we are still struggling with palm refining, and palm refining capacity utilization in the country is woefully low, and this is largely on account of skewed duty structure, whereby the differential between crude palm oil and olein is only 5% because of some agreement which India had signed way back in 2010 with Malaysia. At sea, we are making all-out efforts to get this aberration changed. Hopefully, we should succeed post-elections. Coming to sugar, sugar is another subject where India is struggling with massive stocks. And this year's production, contrary to what the estimates were earlier, we could actually be looking at something like 33 million tons. India, as an exporting nation for sugar, is squaring the pitch more so in the Middle East and East African nations. In fact, we estimate this year's exports of sugar could be in the region of about anything between 3 to 3.5 million tons. A massive structural change is also happening as far as the sugar sector in the country is concerned. This has been largely on the strength of government's renewed thrust on renewable fuel, or ethanol as we call it. In fact, this year we should be in a position to have a blend ratio of about 7%, and in the coming years, with massive capacity expansion taking place in the distilling, I would not be too surprised if the sugar sector starts getting called as the energy sector in India, because the government cannot wish away high sugarcane prices. So one way of that is to encourage more and more diversion of sugar into ethanol. This is a policy which is good economically, politically, as well as environmentally. So no wonder it is being given the required thrust. Friends, I'm sure you will have a wonderful conference, and I will definitely miss it. Thank you once again.